Hey everyone, so this will be a short screencast that basically will serve as an introduction to Twitter and why using Twitter in education can be beneficial. We'll also talk a little bit about Twitter chats as well, but the main goal is to just provide a brief overview to Twitter and how it's being used in education and why you should think about joining if you haven't already, and also why you should think about participating in becoming more active on Twitter and becoming active in Twitter chats and things like that. So for those of you who are brand new to Twitter, this is essentially what the interface looks like. It may be a little overwhelming at first. There's a lot going on. But the basic idea of Twitter is a social networking site where you can share very short tweets, are what the messages are called, 140 characters or less, and you can also add in images or GIFs or polls as well. But essentially, it's a short message that you would send out to people who are following you. And think about that sort of similar to Facebook, these would be your friends. So the people who follow you are the people who want to hear what you have to say, essentially. So you could send out a message, and then people could either like that message or they could retweet it, which essentially means they would repost it on their own feed here, similar to this. And then you can also reply to other people's tweets as well. One thing that's a little different about Twitter is everything is public. So even if I'm not following you, if I search you, I'll still be able to see what you've been posting and what you've been sharing. So that's something to keep in mind. You can also send direct messages to other people if they are following you and you are following them. It's got to be that you're both connected to each other. You can send messages. And then you've got your notifications, people who've liked your tweets or retweeted your tweets as well. And the other thing to keep in mind, one of the main things on Twitter that you'll see a lot, and it exists in Facebook now and lots of other social media as well, but that's the hashtag here. So you see here, we've got hashtag EdTech. And what the hashtag is used for is essentially categorizing or tagging your tweet with a certain category. So there's millions of different hashtags, and you can see here on the left are the trends with hashtags. So apparently it's National Puppy Day today, but you can see what's popular and what people are talking about, and it's a good way to search for things. So if I wanted to know what was going on in EdTech right now, I could search hashtag EdTech, and all of this stuff about education technology would come up that I could look through and see what people are talking about. I could find new people to follow if someone was sharing interesting things and I wanted to know more from them. I could click on them and choose to follow them, this person I'm already following. So that's just a very brief introduction to Twitter. And so you might be thinking, well, what's the point? I can only share 140 characters. It's all these people, maybe just talking about celebrities or politics or whatever. But if you look at education in particular, and you look at who's tweeting about education, there are tons and tons of educators who are passionate about technology, passionate about their classrooms, and who are looking to share ideas and connect with other teachers around their state and around the world to basically grow the conversation around education, technology, best practices in the classroom, and all sorts of things. So there are literally hundreds of thousands of educators on Twitter talking about what matters in education and what's important. And you might be surprised, but you can actually say quite a bit and have a pretty good conversation and get some great ideas across with just 140 characters. And maybe some of those characters are sharing links to blog posts and things like that where you can get a little more in depth. But it's just a great social network for coming together and meeting people outside of your immediate bubble and connecting with teachers around the world. So that's part of why Twitter's awesome. One of the other things that's really powerful and cool that you can do with Twitter is what's called a Twitter chat. And essentially, this is a weekly conversation that happens over a specific topic, and there's tons of different topics, but it's a weekly conversation that happens where you can chat with other teachers about something you're interested in or passionate about. If you go to Google and type education Twitter chats, the first thing that comes up is this education chats Google site. And this has a calendar of all the major Twitter chats that are happening throughout the world, centered around education. And you'll see that each of them is denoted by a hashtag here. And that's sort of how the chat works. You always have to have your hashtag, and then the Twitter chat will center around that. So for example, you see at 8 p.m. tonight, we've got the superintendent's chat. Lots of different districts have their chat. We've got an environmental ed chat, Nebraska for the whole state. If we scroll down to Thursday at 9 p.m., you'll see we've got Indiana eLearn, which is a great one for teachers in Indiana and pre-service teachers in Indiana. And so what you would do is you'd sign on to Twitter at that time, 9 p.m., and then the moderator of that chat, which is usually someone who is familiar with the organization or who represents the organization, will send out questions every 5 to 10 minutes, and then everyone who's participating will reply with their answers and with their experiences. So just to give you an example of one, here's one that our W435 class hosted last fall, and it was about giving advice to pre-service teachers and how to use technology in the classroom and things pre-service teachers should keep in mind. So our first question for that was, what are your most effective strategies for integrating new technology into the classroom? And you see we added the hashtag Indiana eLearn so people could follow along. And then we start getting replies. So for the question, it's usually in this Q1 format. And then for the responses, it's usually in this R1. Sometimes you see it as answer A1, where they are responding to that question that was just asked. And we get all these different ideas and different voices responding to that first question. And so it's really awesome to bring people together around a certain topic, get people sharing ideas, sharing resources, and it's a wonderful way to meet new teachers as well, and new administrators, new tech coaches, new library media specialists. There's no limit to the different roles and different people that are involved in these Twitter chats. And one of my favorite sites for dealing with Twitter chats, rather than going through Twitter where you have sort of all this other stuff popping up all the time or just searching the hashtag, if you use this site, Twubs, TWUBS.com, you can actually enter in the hashtag here and it will pop up with a feed of what's going on with that hashtag, and then you can also enable chat mode, and it just makes it a lot easier. It'll automatically add in the hashtag for you. You can change the speed here if you want to slow things down, because if you're in a big chat and you've got 20, 30, 40, 100 people tweeting all at once, it can go pretty fast. So you can edit the speed here as well, which is nice. And it just makes it a lot easier to facilitate a chat between people. So that is a very quick crash course on Twitter, how it can be useful in education, a little bit about Twitter chats, and it really is, if you're looking to get new ideas, make new connections, and just get engaged in the conversation that's happening online around education, Twitter is probably the best place to go to check that out. So that's a little introduction, and hope that was helpful.